looks at A, okay? So there's a side that'll say A. This is kind of the freshman template, okay? Why we do it this way is we have 8 weeks of training. You're doing the exact same lift. There's 3 different lifts. So there's an A workout, a B workout, and a C workout. What we're trying to do is really develop them to really learn those movement patterns. So there's very important movement patterns like an RDL action, which is where you're hinging your hips, and when you're squatting. You're really trying to get them to do those efficiently and correctly. Our plan, and what we talked to kind of Lotto about, is we want to develop, not necessarily try to max these freshmen out to the strongest they can be. We want them to develop from the freshman level to the varsity level and be as good as they can be. Okay? So that some of these kids are not ready to do any movements as freshmen. They're just doing bodyweight actions. And so this is going to allow you to really just slow it down a lot as far as how we teach it. The other day I was kind of in the gym class watching the hang clean, and it was a struggle. I know we were kind of trying to help out a little bit in there, but it was tough. Some of these kids can't hinge their hips. Okay, some of them can't get their whole body to work together when they're coming up on their toes, when they're showing their shoulders. And it makes it very, very frustrating to try and teach them how to do a clean when they haven't developed those other movement patterns first. So that's kind of the idea, is that each kind of semester, each 8-week block, we build off that. This is the freshman one, it's 8 weeks. The sophomore one will be different in that it's going to be a 6-week block. And the exercises will be a little more advanced versus these ones. If that kind of makes sense, everybody kind of following? So every 8 weeks, you're going to kind of switch up the exercises, not completely reinvent the wheel, just going to progress it. So on the first one, you have, it says an RDL. So from the RDL, then, we would kind of go to a calf raise shrug action. So this is just my simple RDL. They're doing 8 weeks. They're trying to get strong at this movement. After they get that 8 weeks done, then we progress them to that calf raise shrug, okay? And we have that written down on that sheet that you can't read because the print is like 2 size font, I don't even know. But that is a list of how we kind of teach our movements, okay? So you guys see that it goes kind of from the easiest movement down to the most difficult movement, and each one is categorized by the type of lift it is. What we're going to have is that's on a file on the computer, and as you guys kind of get your workouts that you can kind of print out, you'll have the file that you can kind of work with. We're not going to necessarily give you the drop down, so we're going to kind of plan a little bit more for you guys, but that's kind of all the exercise we do with our athletes is on that sheet. Okay? So that's kind of the idea of it. Does it kind of make sense what we're trying to do with that? And then sophomore level would be a 6-week block. After 6 weeks, then they would change the workout. Okay? If you're not able to get 6 weeks in, so be it. They're still going to be developing that strong movement pattern. Then we'll talk about kind of the varsity card real quick. So those are 3 total body workouts you're doing as a freshman and a sophomore. You're always doing total body. There's not really a reason to kind of split that up yet. Okay? They need to develop. Now as varsity athletes, you have the next card. Okay, the next card. And that is a upper-lower split. We also have versions where it's a total body split. It's kind of whatever you guys need the most. I wasn't sure exactly which one is general. So that's general, yeah. So it says general at the top. That is day 1, day 2. Then on the back it's day 3, day 4. So there's 4 different workouts on that. So this would be their card. Okay? So each kid would have this. This would be a 4-week program that they're doing. Okay, we have day 1 upper, day 2 lower, and then this is kind of the varsity one. It looks a little different. It's a little more complicated. Okay? The lifts are progressed. They're doing a little more rest, they're doing different rep ranges. Now they're trying to get to that point where we're really trying to improve their strength. Okay? We're trying to improve their power. We're teaching them how to do cleans. We're teaching them how to do all these things. But it's waiting until they kind of get to that level and they've really understood how to do those basic movements. That's kind of the idea of it. Okay? Does anyone have any questions right now? Because I'd love to answer anything that you have question-wise. Nothing at all. Okay?
I just want to interject one thing. You know, one of the reasons why we want to make why 8 weeks for the freshman, 6 weeks for the sophomore, and then 4 weeks for the junior, senior, you know, whether they're athletes or not. You know, that's really, you know, we call varsity, but, you know, it could be just junior, senior, you know, weightlifting class. And it's basically like when you're new to training, you can benefit from doing the same thing over and over again and get results. The more you train, the more variation you need. So if we introduce too much variation with young athletes that we're trying to really secure great mechanics in these foundational movements, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. So we want to have that 8-week block, and then we'll write up the next progression in that, and it'll be based on those drop down lists. You know, that sheet you can't read. But and then with the sophomores, after 6 weeks, then all the exercises would change. And if it's a 3-day full body lift, I know your gym classes are usually, maybe it's 3 1 week, then 2 the next week. You'd have an A, B, C, so there'll be variation within it just by the weeks, depending on if there's 1 or 2, you just cycle through them. But it just allows as you have challenging jobs in your gym classes because you're teaching large group of athletes or students, and there's not a lot of youth to do that. So really to be able to focus on slowing it down, you know, and really the key is not like how much can we get them to clean or squat or bench. Like, who cares about that? We need to get them to be able to do those things really well and build the base so that, you know, as they advance, you know, whether they're an athlete or not, like their bodies are healthy, they learn the proper way to move, to train, something that they can take on, you know, to college and the rest of their life too, because the way that this is structured is not, it's not, you know, it's not bodybuilding, it's not assuming putting everybody in one box. It's really saying what's important to human movement and function, you know, and every life is athletic in general, you know. Life is not sitting on a machine. And so it's really trying to get that kind of a goal that whether you're an athlete or you're not an athlete, you know, if they go through the program here, when they graduate, they know how to train themselves well. They know what a good program or a bad program would look like, and they understand that it's not about exercises, it's about movements. Yes?
Is it safe to say that not all of our classes are going to be on this 6-week or this 8-week schedule simply because, I guess when I hear 6 weeks and 8 weeks, I'm assuming that the goal is to get them to do that all year long, but I feel, and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that all of our classes are going to be able to stay on a 6-week schedule all year long, 8-week schedule. So having said that, is the goal of some of the classes to become familiar with technique, not necessarily to build the base because we won't be able to, depending on the class that we teach. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, we talked about learning the basics of a lot of this stuff, and also, even though, let's just say hypothetically, we said we have A, B, and C listed, you might not get through B and C, you might just get through A, or you might get through B, depending on how much time you have and what lifts you can get through in your classes, or even the days you can do it. You might go a whole week where your curriculum doesn't allow you to get to some of that stuff. Now, we know that we're supposed to have 10 minutes of strength somewhere in there
Right.
anyways, but that might not be enough to do. It might be one exercise. It might be one thing you're picking out. Or it might be
So as far as building that weekly base and having our kids continue it, that might not be logistically
It'll be different for every
available to
class.
every one of our classes.
Correct, yeah.
So we need to kind of think to get away from that, unless you're a strength trainer or unless.
Some
you're
classes will
like-
be able to do all of this, some won't be able to do as much, some will do
But all
relatively
classes
little.
are, right?
Pardon?
All classes are.
Are-
At every level, right?
We're gonna give you as much information as you can possibly put into your class, and then we'll work from there. So they're not gonna sit here and tell us what each teacher's gonna do for each subject. We're gonna figure that out, but they're gonna show us, we're trying to get from step 1 to step 10. They're gonna show us all 10, and then we'll figure out by what we teach how we're gonna get some of the stuff in.
Right, but it's like we can only get equipment one day out of the week. We're not doing it sequentially.
There's a lot of this stuff that we don't need equipment for. It's gonna be body movement stuff.
Okay.
So we're gonna teach them the basics of how to do stuff and use body weight, as they'll tell you. We don't need equipment for a lot of this stuff.
Bob, well, without like equipment, like even classes, for a lifetime, we've been in the pool and now we're going bowling and we just haven't had
Right.
class time.
Some of our schedule will dictate how much we can do of
Okay.
this. We're not gonna adjust our field trips and things like that for this. We'll have to just keep doing it when we have an opportunity to dress.
Really, too, the 8 weeks is just saying, we're not gonna try to change the exercises up. It doesn't mean that, like, you may only do 3 weeks of it, you know, but they do 3 weeks, that, you know, they're learning, that they're getting those first foundational movement patterns down, and then the next time they're in gym class, or weightlifting, or after school, they've already had exposure to the foundational work.
So it's more exposure, not necessarily building.
Well, it
that
will
basic
build,
strength.
yeah, I mean, it's
obviously you're
exposure
gonna get a little
and,
bit of that, but
yeah,
if you're not consistently doing it as a
Right.
program, you
Right.
won't get the benefits of it, I guess is my main.
we're still teaching them at the right entrance point, you know, of what we should start with and teach them.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Everybody should get through the first couple levels that we're gonna go through, and then, again, depending on how much you're in these
Right.
areas, you'll go to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 10.
and we understand, like, you know, what your reality is in your gym class, like, we understand it at, you know, at a fractional level of what it actually, you know, so, you know, this is kind of what we want to move towards, you know, what Steve has worked really hard on putting together with me, and, you know, then it's like, you know, you say, well, we don't have equipment, like, we can help, you know, like, I mean, we can help to be a resource in answering some of those more specific logistical questions. Like, we want to be that resource to the school and to what you guys are doing, and, you know, we get excited about the possibility of making this, you know, a great development process for the students at Glenbrook North. you
Yeah, no,
know?
I think this is a great program. I just want to, just like, again, we're good. Mike wants to answer.
Right, no, that's a good question, because we talked about that earlier. Everybody teaches something different. We're not gonna replace your activity or the way you teach or your subject. We're just gonna have this resource now to put in to this, and we're all gonna be talking the same language finally.
Right.
When you go evaluate, I mean, finally was telling me too, he's like, you know, I saw the same lesson twice and it was totally different. Well, that's sometimes personality, sometimes just the way we do it, and some people have lived. You know, I see it all the time that way. This is gonna be the same terminology, after school, before school, with teams, with classes, with kids. As much we get to will be depending on our subject.
And what, I'm just last thing, and then I'm gonna stop talking. But, the freshman, sophomore, you know, like Steve said, it's a full, like, each day, ABC is a complete training program. So it's, you know, like, so if all you do is get through A, like, they've done an explosive movement, they've done a balance of pushing and pulling, they've done good structural work, they've done core stability work, they've done, you know, hip hinge, posterior chain work, like, so within each section, you can only get through one, like, that was a really valuable day. It wasn't like you just did curls that day, and like, what was the point of that, you know? So, it allows it to be, you have one day, you get a lot accomplished.
You can't do curls every day.
Well, you can.
I have that on film, by the way.
You gotta have your muscle gainer in the morning, right?
Yeah. Done that.
I would say like too, like when you're saying like you only have a few minutes here or there, or you have 10 minutes of strength work, in my mind I was hoping there would be kind of something off your shoulders too, as far as I normally have 10 minutes of strength work, what can I plan? Now you don't have to worry about that, just grab, they know their card, and if they've been taught a little bit, so you got 10 minutes. I want you guys to get through, you guys are doing this A section, you're doing this B section, you're doing the explosive portion. And it can be just really, really quick now that they know what they need to get into because they've worked on those same lifts. You know, so that was kind of when I was putting it together, I was